program is proudly brought to you by Daytech PNG Limited.
In this session of Infocus, we speak to Mr. Lahui Ako, author and expert at PNG International Relations. And later on in the show, we speak to Minister for Foreign Affairs, Justin Chechenko. Mr. Lahui Ako, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Firstly, Lahui, Papua New Guinea has just officially ratified a new foreign policy white paper in November 2025 titled Strategic Partnerships for Security and Economic Prosperity. This was done under the theme of active and selective engagement. Is this the step in the right direction?
It is a step in the right direction, but maybe a bit of correction. According to my understanding, it superseded the active and selective engagement. The active and selective engagement foreign policy was the first foreign policy white paper written by our fathers. It was endorsed by Parliament in 1982, but work had already started on it in 1979. When Seebia, our first foreign minister, our second foreign minister, said that, listen, friends to all, enemies to none, 1975 to 17, we have made friends already. Now we know who our friends are and who we would like to embrace at an arm's length, who we would like to embrace closely. So now let's go start choosing them and moving our young country forward. So since then, there have been, from 1982 up to 2026, there have been a couple of strategic intents provided by the foreign minister in his parliamentary statements, but those were statements and intents provided for the Department of Foreign Affairs to implement our international relations endeavors abroad.
How would you describe how Papua New Guinea has conducted its foreign policy engagement since independence till today?
We had a very, very infant foreign service in 1975 when we came on board. Came on board as a sovereign nation. This had to do with the capability of our manpower. And over the years, we built it up. The inclusion of the active and selective engagement foreign policy white paper changed the whole focus. By the time a lot had been happening with us, we had been a sovereign nation for 7 years. We had gone across to Vanuatu in 1980 to quell the crisis there by Mr. Stephen and his rebels. And we were going out. By 1975, 76, and 77, our Prime Minister and our first Foreign Minister, Sir Albert Mauri Kiki, and our first Foreign Secretary, the late Sir Anthony Segu, they went out to numerous countries, to numerous international organizations, introducing PNG and enabling us to become members of those organizations, and also signing bilateral relations with all those countries we currently have bilateral relations with. So our fathers laid the foundation for us to build our foreign service capability and our international relations endeavors from 1975 up. The only game plan we had, written game plan, I call foreign policy, foreign policy is a glorified word for a normal game plan. You see, a foreign policy, it helps guide how a country plays abroad. So it's a game plan. And then that game plan is now broken up into bilateral and multilateral. So if you bring in, all of us are rugby league fans and followers, so if you bring in a rugby league metaphor, then you have bilateral engagements as test matches and multilateral engagements as World Cup tournaments. So we've had that game plan up to now, but again, did we have the capable team to take the field? Bilaterally or multilaterally. You see, you can't bring the same team that you put up in a bilateral engagement with, say, Chile, and then use them in a multilateral engagement at the Pacific Island Forum. See, so it brings us to the point of today. We have the new foreign policy, as you mentioned, white paper, endorsed by Parliament late last year. That's fine. That's the overall strategic intent. Right now, do we have the players to implement it, both bilaterally, multilaterally, and also domestic? It's a cycle, you see. You domesticate it into internationalizing it, you domesticate it into like that. So in that way, you have you look at tangible benefits. It's not only...
Sorry, could you clarify what you mean by players?
Yeah, okay, players. In terms of players, I would mean our international relations practitioners. I'd like to move away from the traditional word of diplomacy being in the domain of foreign service officers. You know, it's not it might have been in the 1980s and 90s, but not now. Because no man is an island, and not all of us know what AI is, or what climate change is, or what green financing is. We bring experts. It would be missing on us to go to a climate change meeting, international climate change meeting, without our experts. So when I mean the players, it means players, those type of players, and also in our relevant departments that participate in international relations. Have we trained our manpower to the level where they can compete competitively with whoever sitting across on the other side of the table? Or have we left that to some powers that may be above, who will go and do that for us? So which is why I have emphasized my own personal thoughts and opinion is based on the fact that a foreign policy is a game plan that must utilize a project management approach to get it implemented.
Now, Lahui, given Papua New Guinea's position within the Pacific, how can PNG best leverage its unique position in the Pacific to foster strategic partnerships with major powers?
That's I'll touch on it from a foreign policy point of view. Again, I'm going back to the foreign policy. We now have a foreign policy. So that sets the parameters. Those 7 pillars sets the parameters of how we engage with all economies internationally, be whether they superpowers or whether they are least developed economies. It is our sovereign right to interact with them according to how our national priorities lead us into. Okay, so we can either choose and decide for this country. Let's talk about these things and see what they can offer us. For this country, so we must always avoid duplicating initiatives, because we must also understand that the development partners who come and provide development cooperation in this country, they are using their taxpayers' money. So there must be a sense of humanity in it. You know, imagine if we all know that part of our taxes are going to support a least developed economy, and that it is not going according to how the agreements were signed on how to use it. So that's how we are a small economy. We're a small economy, but we are a sovereign nation. And then we are a sovereign nation with a new foreign policy that is now providing us a new focus on how we approach our international relations engagement in the world today. Again, it goes back to the capability. Do we have the capability to implement it so that we win, or it's a win-win situation for all parties? If not, how can we make that capability come up? Okay, so one of the ways of getting becoming more capable is through agreements. You know, when you look at the Pupuk Treaty that was done on for the purpose of interoperability and capacity building on our part. I won't go there because I'm not a subject matter expert on that. But in terms of multilateral cooperation, you look when you look at APEC, APEC has a lot of capacity building initiatives, and that is where we participate in to drive our national interest. And I note that in terms of the multilateral engagements, it is a collective approach. And it comes down to how we Papua New Guineans or we Melanesians deal with our issues and activities in the village. Everybody gathers together, gets consensus, and then goes and do it. And if one disagrees, and then the others use what they call peer pressure to make him or her understand, and we go out, and then once we walk out of there, it becomes a collaborative interest that is going out now. So like the family decides on how much money they will contribute to the other house cry. Some say 50, some say 70, then the 50 kina group wins, and so they bring that 50 kina, and then the person goes to the house and say, this is contribution from my father. You see, he's using the name of the family now. Same thing. When you stand and say, so Papua New Guinea doesn't believe that we can join that consensus because our interest lies outside of that agenda.
Now, Lahui, in what ways can PNG enhance its role within regional organizations like the APEC group, as you mentioned, as well as the Pacific Islands Forum?
Multilateral organizations, including the PIF and APEC and all others, have major committees in them. They have, in those committees, they have working groups. And then those working groups come up with activities. And those activities are based on the overall charter or the goal which we signed on to as part of that organization. So when we look at APEC, APEC's main goal is to ensure that there's trade liberalization and investment facilitation across the region to improve lives. And then they have 4 main committees. The Committee on Trade and Investment, which deals with trade and investment issues, and all its working groups are aligned to that. They have working groups such as the Investment Expert Group, Group on Services, Market Access Group, all those groups are there. Then you have the Economic Committee that deals with structural reform. You have the senior official meetings, Economic Technical Cooperation Group that deals with agriculture and fisheries, those other issues. The Budget Management Committee deals with APEC's operations, so that's part of it. Now, in those working groups, our Papua New Guineans departments and experts attend those working groups. The ideal situation is for us to bring what's in our, right up to the launching of the current foreign policy. We used the MTDP4, and we also had an APEC foreign policy endorsed by Cabinet to drive PNG's participation in APEC. See, so once we go to APEC, and it basically the APEC, PNG's foreign policy in APEC basically talks about implementing the MTDP3 in APEC activities. So if you went to attend the Agriculture Technical Cooperation Working Group in APEC, so you refer back to the MTDP4. Or right now, we have the MTDP4 and the foreign policy. So we refer back to the particular pillars of the foreign policy and the raw work of agriculture and MTDP4. What does it talk about? Then we bring it down and we merge it with the terms of reference of the APEC working group. And then we find a common ground where PNG will drive its interest. And if there's no common ground, there's, in APEC is what they call concept notes. You start writing those proposals through a concept note, and you submit it. And the concept note process is so, it's difficult because there are 21 member economies in APEC, and anything in APEC, the APEC way is through consensus. So if I write a concept note on, say, building irrigation, capacity building on how to build irrigation in a rural economy, in rural village setting, I have to get at least 3 or more sponsors from among the APEC member economies. They too must have a need for that. If the first economy airport says, oh, no, we already have those. Why don't you do this? And you say, no, it doesn't work with our priorities. So until you find that common ground at that working group, you bring it to the other committee level. So right up along the way. And I can tell you a recent success story of how IPA went through that tedious process to approve their impact investment workshop, which they went and they conducted an impact investment workshop, which was the goal of that concept note in the APEC setting, to see how impact investment can work in developing economies. So that workshop was done last month, and then the outcomes of it has been written, and then that outcome will now come back to IPA, and IPA will now go to the MTDP4 to see where it fits, so that they can come up with maybe a policy or something else to implement it, so that the benefits go all the way down to the village level. And that outcome is also the same outcome which the rest of the APEC member economies wanted, because none of them understood or knew the clear demarcation of what impact investment was. That's the reason why they agreed to endorse consensus, agreed to have that workshop, and that workshop was done.
Now, Lahui, drawing from since independence, what lessons can Papua New Guinea learn from its past foreign policy mistakes to better navigate future challenges?
Yeah, my own opinion on that is we have to start working towards instituting project management training in our systems. Because once we move out into the international relations arena, we have project managers there driving economies agendas. And you can realize it, because when they start doing presentation and they start talking about theory of change and scheduling outputs, going to outcome, into impact and all, that's project management language. And if we are unable to grasp it at that level, then we have an issue coming back to implement it. Because noting very well that we have a rural population of more than, 85%? And that rural population, in this time and age, must somehow have access to smart initiatives. And the only way to do that is to drive it through a highly engaged, relevant foreign policy machinery that covers the whole public service network.
What is your vision for the future of Papua New Guinea's foreign policy, and what key steps are necessary to realize it?
We have a new game plan, and it has to be operationalized. How it has to be operationalized, I think from where I see it, from Hanobara village, where I'm from, where I see it then, when I see it, the operationalization is happening at a very slow pace. Because we need to see where that whole public service machinery has to be broken up into those 7 pillars. What particular departments are responsible for Pillar 1? What particular departments are responsible for Pillar 2, Pillar 3, or are there cross-cutting issues that requires that, now international, most international protocols talk about gender, equity and all that. So those are cross-cutting initiatives, and climate change, all these, which cover them. So until we have that in place, then we can then determine our human resource and our resources. The Bilum I mentioned. Bilum blew me now and pull up now, go on a play or not. If it's not ready, then we need to fill it up. I mean, you look at the PNG chief's preparation into 2028. They already have people earmarked, and they already have that to come in, and the people they mark appoint to come in and calls to train, they will come in with activities, projects, training programs, and then they will pick the players to go in and play. And they are not picking the players just to go and make up numbers. They're picking the players just to go in and win. And that is how we should be approaching our the implementation of our foreign policy abroad. We just see that there's a conflict in the Middle East now. Out of those 7 pillars, our relationship with the Middle Eastern economies is based on those 7 pillars. So under the pillar, or the cross-cutting nature of those pillars, how are we going to improve that to drive PNG's agenda around the world? That 7 pillars cover it all. And the 7 pillars have to be merged with MTDP4 or MTDP5 after the next parliament. All that to ensure that when the PNG international relations practitioner goes abroad and sits, he or she knows what he's going to talk about. Time I'm looking at my agenda, bang, tick, tick, tick. So once the chairman starts the meeting, the PNG flex goes up. Papua New Guinea, then you start talking because you have all your resources there in front of you to use. And that's driving Papua New Guinea's interest abroad. Then you come back and you report on it. And then that report, you determine how it will fit into the MTDP4 because MTDP4 is domestic. It's a domesticating plan. How it fits in there to go all the way to the village level. There are departments there who are specialized in doing them. We have to utilize them, which is why when we started our conversation, I said the implementation of PNG's foreign policy abroad is a whole of government approach, including the provincial governments, because those are the main beneficiaries. Anything to do with bilateral assistance, that's bilateral aid now. Okay, in that bilateral aid, under what program? If they're running a coffee program, well, it goes out into the province. If they're running an agriculture program, it goes out to the provinces. How are we liaising with those provinces to find a more better deal for them in that bilateral relations so that they benefit more? That's the ongoing question which you and I will have going forward, because tomorrow's situation will be different from today. And we need to learn. The most important thing going forward now will be adaptability, how to adapt to situations when it changes. Yes, the 7 pillars are there, but if it means putting up a part-time 8 pillar, because the situation now warrants it, and those 7 don't mention how to go about it, then you have to adapt to it. And adaptability is what? Is part of project management. And if we lack the project management skills on how to adapt or change from one scenario to another scenario, bringing all those project management processes, costing, risk, change, stakeholder parts into that particular space, then we will have challenges.
In this last session, we speak to Minister for Foreign Affairs, Justin Chichenko, about the recently launched PNG Foreign Policy White Paper.
45 years, and I'm proud to say under our government, under James Marape and our Deputy Prime Minister, we have, through the Department of Foreign Affairs, we have finally got the Foreign Policy White Paper done, which has taken us nearly 3 years to do it, with proper consultation throughout all institutions, government institutions, NGOs, public, and with the eminent group, Papua New Guinea eminent group of senior Papua New Guineans, and of course the Department of Foreign Affairs staff and management making it happen. This policy is a strategic partnership for economic and security prosperity for our country. Now, if you read into those words, economic and security prosperity, meaning that we must prosper when it comes to our economy, and we must deal with all our bilateral partners for the benefit of our economy and trade. Plus, we must be secure, safe and sound in our region, in our environment. Very, very important. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. After 50 years of independence, we've assessed every avenue from where we've gone and where we're going to. And for our foreign policy white paper, it's taking into account every aspect of war, every aspect of relationship, every aspect of bilateral, and also diplomacy. We look at everything right across the board. That's why security, defense, economics, trade is very important for us into the future. We are still friends to all, enemies to none, but strategic partnerships are very important. The USA DCA. We also have, with that as well, the Book Treaty. We have also our shipwriters agreement with the United States, France, England. We have our policing agreement with the Solomon Islands. We need our friends and foes to work together with us for the long-term benefit of security in the region and also prosperity as well, and our safety as well. Our sovereignty is never questioned. Our sovereignty is number one. Number one priority is our sovereignty of our country, and that will always be put first.
Lahui Ako, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Waira. Thank you, everyone who's listening out there. Just to reconfirm again, these are all my personal views based on the book I wrote. So it's still available. There's a few copies left, and I also teach this book. I have been teaching this book for the last 5 years at the Divine Word Foreign Policy course.
Well, viewers, that ends this episode of Infocus. Do join us again next week, Monday, on our regular time slot of 7 p.m. Till then, bye for now.
This program was proudly brought to you by Daytech PNG Limited.